Hi everyone and welcome back to the Early Bird Photo News. We got a few very interesting topics to go through today. Over the last few weeks I haven't really been out photographing much, but the other day I saw a post on Facebook that showed some quite rare and very difficult to photograph fruit doves relatively low, not too far from my house. So obviously I got quite excited and checked out the spot the other day, and when I got there I walked around. First I didn't see any birds, but eventually I found a little group of palm trees that looked like this is where the birds might be feeding. So I hung around, and not too long after I got there, a few birds started to show up. However, the moment the birds showed up, it also started to pour down like crazy and it just wouldn't stop. So I got pretty annoyed because I really wanted to photograph these birds and I kept persevering, but after a while it just got too much rain. First I was using the 100 to 500 in the rain, but I put that away because I started to think, ooh, with all the rain, not sure about that. And then I used my 600mm prime lens, but after a while my R5s actually got so wet that the viewfinder started to fog up because of all the moisture kind of creeping into the camera. So I just had to give up and go home with a few shots, but not really what I wanted. Luckily, it looked like after I dried all the gear, it was working fine again. And here's one tip: I would definitely always take off my lens coat or any coat you have on your lens after rain and let the lens dry without the coat on and dry the coat separately. Otherwise, sometimes a bit of moisture can get stuck under the lens coat and it takes a long time to dry, or maybe your lens even gets moldy. So of course I didn't want to give up so quickly. I went back to the spot the other day and I was actually able to get a few shots of this awesome Whippy fruit dove and also of the rose-crowned fruit dove. So I was super stoked with that. And the biggest challenge at this spot is actually the angle. For these kind of birds that never go onto the ground, they're already quite low in the tree, but for us, for an ideal photography angle, it's still relatively steep. And so instead of what most people would try to do and get as close to the birds as possible, I'll actually do what's kind of counterintuitive and go as far away from the birds as possible and use a long lens with a teleconverter. Because what happens, the further you go away from the bird and the higher you go up the kind of hill that's behind me, the better of an angle you get on the bird. So oftentimes I'm shooting with 1200mm with this 2x extender on my 600mm lens, and that allowed me to get shots that almost looked like eye angle, even though my lens was still kind of angled up. But because I was far away and was using the long focal length, it looked fairly nicely like eye level. Whereas if you were using a shorter lens and went as close to the bird as possible, you probably would end up with bum shots and a sky background, simply because the bird's high up in the tree and you're kind of shooting right up into it. Now on that day I took a few thousand images and I haven't managed to go through all of them yet, but I think I got some really nice shots. I'm looking forward to editing them up, but for now I'm already quite happy with what I got, but I think I'll probably go back again as well to see if I can get some more stuff. Speaking about image editing, I think this is one of the areas where many people could improve their photography the most and build more confidence. And this is where I would love to help you with my PROSETS and my masterclass. With my PROSETS, I allow you with just one click to get amazing results from your raw files. And in my masterclass, I teach you step by step everything you need to know in Photoshop to get amazing results, get more confident, and have more fun when it comes to image editing. So if this sounds interesting to you, make sure to check these out down there in the description. A little while ago now, Canon announced that they won't be allowing any RF third-party lenses, and this was definitely met with a lot of unhappy customers that used to like their Sigma or Tamron third-party lenses for their DSLR cameras, for instance. But now it seems like Canon is slowly but surely starting to give a few licenses to produce RF lenses to a few third-party manufacturers, including Sigma, for instance. And I think this is quite an interesting development for us photographers, because there has been a rumor that around February, Sigma will be announcing the first RF autofocus lenses, and this would definitely be a big deal, and I think many people would be very happy if that's a trend that will allow Sigma and Tamron and some others to produce more and more third-party RF lenses, including some of the very popular wildlife lenses like the Sigma 150 to 600mm lens that I know a lot of you guys have been using. So for now we have to wait and see, and it probably takes a while until Sigma would have a complete sort of lineup of RF lenses, but it's definitely a trend that I think will make many people hopeful that we eventually will see some nice third-party lenses in the Canon lineup as well. And I'm sure a lot of you guys would be quite happy with a few third-party offerings as well, especially because they're usually more attractively priced, am I right? When it comes to high-end and well-priced wildlife lenses, Nikon is definitely leading the way, and it looks like they're planning to add another crazy lens to their already great lineup, a 28 to 400mm Megazoom that will be f4.5 to 6.3 most likely. It will not be their highest S-line lens, but it will be still a pretty good lens, I'd say. Is that a lens that would interest you? I know for video this could be quite interesting because of that massive zoom range, and if you're going traveling for instance and want to take just 1 or 2 lenses, this could also be quite an interesting choice. So would that be a lens for you if it actually becomes true? Speaking about lenses, it looks like Sony might be introducing some new interesting G-Master lenses as well, a 24 to 50 f2.8 lens and a 24 to 200 f2.8 to f4.5 lens. Two quite interesting lenses, not necessarily what I would use all the time, but a 24 to 200mm lens, for instance, could also be quite interesting again for video work, or because it can also replace taking 1 or 2 other lenses. So having lenses like this and seeing the manufacturers to continuously produce new lenses is definitely good to see, isn't it? It looks like Sony keeps pushing the boundaries when it comes to sensor technology, and currently they're working on a 126 megapixel Fovein sensor. That technology itself isn't new, but in the past it was always a bit of a struggle with getting the right image quality out of these sensors. And in theory, these sensors are better because they're 3 different color layers and each layer reads out a different color, so you're basically capturing a lot more information in the sensor, as opposed to the biosensors where basically each pixel is divided up in RGB, the 3 different colors, and each of the pixels reads a certain bit of information and the rest of the information is lost. So having a 3-layer Fovein sensor that reads out more information in theory is much better, but if Sony is able to make it work, then we will definitely get cameras with much better image quality, much better dynamic range, and also probably better ISO performance. So I don't think this is ready for market just yet, but it's great to see that the companies are working on new sensors that should give us even better image quality, isn't it? It looks like Canon is also pushing ahead when it comes to new technology and especially autofocus technology, with the rumor saying that Canon might introduce quad pixel autofocus into the R5 Mark II and especially the R1, and this would be a great development because it would mean that the autofocus is more accurate. Currently Canon and most manufacturers are using dual pixel autofocus, where each pixel is basically cut in half and then each half is used to calculate the distance for the autofocus to travel. But this can be prone to error, especially when there's horizontal lines in the picture and the line is right where the pixels are cut in half. This autofocus, the dual pixel autofocus, works much better with vertical lines, and I've heard even in the past from some Canon engineers saying that if your autofocus struggles, sometimes holding the camera on a slight angle will actually help the autofocus, especially if there's a lot of horizontal lines in your picture. So using quad pixel autofocus that would give us more accurate autofocus is definitely something we would all be quite happy to see in these cameras. And it would be one way for Canon to distinguish the R5 Mark II and especially the R1 from the current competition as well. So I would love to see that technology alongside nice and fast stacked sensors in the R5 Mark II and the R1 for sure. Over the last few days, we were all bombarded with sales from Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So I was just curious, did you guys score any great deals? Did you buy anything interesting, or did all the sales kind of pass along and you didn't really find anything that you wanted to buy? Personally, I didn't buy much except for a few programs that I needed to build my new website and a few plugins. But other than that, I didn't really find anything that was too useful. But I wonder if you guys found something interesting. Speaking about new stuff, it looks like Canon is still struggling to produce certain lenses, especially the 100 to 300 seems to be very difficult to produce for some reason, and there's still long delays, with Canon now saying that it can take up to 6 months from the order date to actually receive the lens, which, as we discussed last week, is quite disappointing and annoying. But I guess at this stage there's not much we can do about it, and this might also be one reason why there haven't been a lot of lens releases as of late, or why people still haven't received any 200 to 800s, including me, which I hope will hopefully change very soon so I can make a review for you guys. On a good note though, it seems like that the Nikon 2.8 400mm TC lens is in stock again at many different retailers. And on that note, I think it's a good time to wrap up this week's Early Bird Photo News. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up, let me know all your thoughts in the comments, check out my channel membership and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye guys!